Hello, everyone that will see this interview. My name is Pedro from Hashtag Eurovision, and I'm here to have a really nice chat with Martel, I guess,
Yes, yes.
one of the members of the Baryak
Yes.
that will compete at Montesong, the national selection for Montenegro to participate at Eurovision 2025. So yeah, welcome. It's really nice to have you here and have the opportunity to have a chat. So yeah, how are you? Like, how's that going?
I'm good. Thanks a lot for the invite and everything. You guys were the first who were actually interested to kind of break through with some interviews right as soon as possible, like before we even reach the final day of the finals. But yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. We're a little focused in general over the past few days, finishing some kind of final costume choices, working a bit around how we're gonna move on stage, how things are gonna happen. Thing is, in general, as a band, we're also used to being on a real stage. So
Mm,
it's a little strange to now be doing something where the focus is only TV, where you're not really interacting with an audience. You're not really behaving the way you do when you play the music because it's all on
exactly.
playback. So yeah, we're kind of working through our act now, and looking forward to Wednesday when it's the
Yeah,
finals.
yeah. It's pretty soon. Pretty soon. Yeah, I can definitely understand that it's a completely different
Mhm.
concert from a TV show. But yeah, good to know that you are working hard on that. I would like to talk a little bit about your song. Correct me if
Mhm.
I'm pronouncing it wrong. But it's the name of the song is Dva
Srca.
Srca. Okay,
Srca.
yeah,
Yeah, Dva
Srca.
Srca.
Yeah, yeah. I went to Google Translate to see. Okay, let me see how I can pronounce it
Good
correctly.
job. Good job.
Um, and if I'm correct, it translates the name of the song to Two Hearts.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Fantastic. So yeah, I would like to ask you a little bit about the song.
Mhm.
It's to be honest, I really like your song.
Mhm.
The rock vibes, and it looks like it's very electronic, rock, underground
Yeah, it's a
vibes.
blend. It's a blend of those energies. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to understand a little bit more what inspired you to write this song, a song like this, and what
Mhm.
is the message behind the song? Because you wrote the song in Montenegrin, like
Yeah. Yeah.
in your own language. So
Yeah.
there's like this language barrier to the rest of Europe.
There is.
So
There
to
is.
be
There
good
is.
to understand, like what
There is.
inspired this song and what is the main message that you
You
want
you know
to
you know to be
share.
honest, when it comes to the general kind of cultural situation in the Balkans, it's very hard from us on a regional level, locally, to kind of break away from these Hollywood stereotypes that our languages, especially Montenegrin, Croatian, Bosnian, the one that sound a little tougher,
Yeah.
to kind of embrace the nice side. They're even seen from a domestic perspective as something harsh to the ears, as something that's not that poetic, as something that should be avoided when it comes to commercial music and everything. And to us, it was kind of important, especially to me as the chief songwriter. It was important to kind of reinvigorate what you can do with our language, because in general the way our language is used is, unless it's TV pop, strictly TV pop, there's really a kind of lull, a kind of minus with how often people choose to sing in our language. And it's a problem because a lot of the local bands that sing, they sing in English, and they do their
Mm,
music in English because this is the sound of rock and roll, supposedly, right?
exactly.
But
Yeah.
this is kind of like a pushback after the COVID years changed an outlook on a lot of stuff. A lot of bands stopped coming, scenes kind of changed, local scenes and local acts had to kind of find the confidence to kind of reawaken the local audience, to kind of reawaken the style of doing sometimes their own interpretations of stuff. So it was really important to me to make sure that not only is it in our language, but it's also trying to be very avant-garde and very poetic. It doesn't use stereotypical words, it doesn't use stereotypical imagery. It's very kind of modern, to put it that way. But
No.
thematically, it's also like a kind of in a way, there's a patriotic aspect to it, but it's more in a sense. I mean, you're Portuguese, so you're probably gonna
Yeah.
understand this, but it's kind of like it has this aspect like the Luziad by Camões. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a pseudo ode to your country and to where you come from, and there's like these references to these micro struggles in the song, but there's also an erotic aspect to it. There's a romantic aspect to it in the kind of ancient Greek tradition of basically treating your heritage, treating where you come from like a goddess, like the ultimate form of Athens, which is in essence how she came to be that important in their mythology, anyways. But on a more grounded level, behind the kind of conceptual ideas and everything, the song is also about, I mean, one of the main drivers behind it is also when you come from a place like Montenegro, and I'm sure you also understand this because Portugal has similar struggles. For a lot of the people, the only good option in life is to leave, to immigrate, to go somewhere else, and to look elsewhere for more luck, for a better life, for a better future. And all of us in the band are actually people who spent maybe even more than half of our life outside than we did in Montenegro. And over the years, over time, as you know, work develops and you kind of develop your career and thing, we kind of ended up merging into this point where coming back and returning to Montenegro made more sense actually than sacrificing, you know, emotional ties, family ties, a lot of that kind of vibe of just wanting to be home after spending so much time outside of the country, that it was then fascinating how there is, when you realize that there is this one idea of what home is when you're not at home for such a long time, and how even when you come back, it's still a completely different thing compared to people who are here their whole life, who are in the country their entire life. So there's a lot of this kind of, let's say, symmetrical approach to the poetry and the song as well. The kind of plays with these images as well. Like, what is it really to, you know, have only one heart or one home, or to be in one place, or to actually be able to carry the weight of that and to carry it to other places. And usually the most significant way of doing that is through love. So when you amalgamate all of these elements that I talked about and give it a kind of electroambiental edge, that's kind of how you get to the song and to what we did.
And that's fantastic, and actually also resonates with me a little bit because I've been living abroad for 2 years, so I know that feeling of leaving home, leave like your country to move somewhere else, and have this experience and start valuing like your home country, your own language. And also I really understand the fact that it was important for you to write a song in your own language, because also there's always something that, even though the English it's being the standardized as the language for most of the songs, there are some aspects that you want to describe in a song that you cannot do it in any other way that is not your native language. So I definitely understand. Yeah, and as I can see, you have an emotional connection with emotions expressed in the song, I assume, based on what you described. So that's fantastic. So yeah, I also have some questions, and now that you will be participating in Montesong, and that the ultimate goal will be to win and participate in Eurovision next year, how do you feel about competing against other many talented artists from Montenegro?
Well, to be honest, it feels really nice because we've kind of opened up the competition again. And a few years before they opened it up and before we started, there was like, I mean, I can't say they were really scandals, but you know, there's fishy stuff when there's no open competition and someone just shows up and says, aha, so we've decided the competitor, and that's the person that goes, and no one knows why, no one knows how, what the process was. So in that sense, it's really cool. But on a local level, I think what's really magical about it is that, and we're really kind of smitten by the whole experience ourselves as a band. It's that there really is a kind of strong sense that it's good that this is happening for the local scene, and that people are actually very proud to be competing without that kind of strange athletomaniac edge of trying to be who's going to be first, who's going to be third, who's going to be fifth, whatever. Results, in a sense, aren't that important this time because the competition itself had a strange reputation over the past years here, and this is a kind of chance for redemption. And I think everyone is just really enthusiastic about, you know, giving their best to make everybody feel included, to make it feel very public, and to really make it feel like the audience has a say finally after some time. So yeah, in that sense, it's actually really great.
And gives stage to many artists from Montenegro to also show their talents and their songs, and also creates more transparency about the process of choosing the country representative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking about the competition, you already described at the beginning some things that you are preparing. So I'd like to also to understand, being these a rock song,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming the stage can be very peculiar, but I'd like to understand if you are preparing something special and what can we
Well, our
expect
main
like for
work,
the live performance.
our main work, due to like the nature of a TV competition and the way it works this year in Montenegro, and it's the first time that it's a co-production,
Mhm.
so it is a little messy. It is a little disorganized because things haven't kind of locked in yet as a steady machine, and we didn't really have a concrete space to finalize everything that we wanted. We only had a few kind of shots at trying to give it an authentic feel. So the main thing, apart from us and our costumes and the kind of natural energy of trying to perform an intense love song in essence, is
Mhm.
also the LED art, the graphic art that's going on behind us. Like that kind of had the biggest impact on the stage, because the stage isn't as big as the ones usually are at the Eurovision. They kind of made it at a new place in the last second. They didn't really know what's going to be the orientation of it, what they're going to be able to fit on it. So we didn't really, push a strong gas for, a lot of requisites on stage, a lot of stage design and things like that. But the LED screens are massive, so the graphic art for the LED kind of really goes in sync with song a little more powerfully than is usually the case.
That sounds cool. So I'm very curious to see what will happen
Mhm.
next week then. Regarding the fans and support, like since you were announced as one of the participants of the Montesong,
Mhm.
um, have you seen any difference on like support from fans, people reaching out to you? How was it? How has been the experience
It's
building the
it's
public
actually really
support?
weird that it's already happening. I'm already being stopped in the street, like even before the finals, and getting told by random people that the song is great, that they love it, that they really kind of resonate
Mhm.
with it and everything. So in that sense, it's really inspiring. But in a way, we're also a kind of, let's say, a kind of super group of people here who have unexpectedly ended up applying with a song and forming a band for this.
Okay.
Because in general, what we really do is, between the six of us that are showing up on the Eurovision, we cover a lot of ground. There's classical concerts, there's raves, there's designing video games, there's filmmaking. We cover a lot of the kind of artistic spectrum, and we already defined our names to an extent on a local level
Mhm.
that were familiar to people through that prism, through the prism of what we generally do. But then it was also kind of really cool to see that people really do dig the idea that we as a collective kind of, got together and stuck together with the idea of, what, let's also form a band. Why not, play music at the end of the day after doing everything else. So yeah, in that sense, it's also making a change, because people are really really kind of happy and excited to see that we're working together again, but in this format, not the stuff that they're used to seeing us in.
No, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I assume that the goal to reach Eurovision was never like a dream before, or something that you ever thought, or something that was like, okay,
Uh,
let's form the
you,
band
you
and
know how
compete and see.
things really change. Things really change over time, and luckily they're changing rapidly. Because the way the situation was, like I'll take my own example, because I'm the oldest member of them all. I'm 33, so I'm kind of above everyone by age and by life experience and work experience and everything. And in a way, I'm really happy that we converged to this decision now, after the COVID days and after everything, because Europe, in a sense, ever since Brexit and ever since COVID kind of made it very hard for a lot of American acts to come over here, Europe finally realized and got this kind of courage of trying to become a little Eurocentric on a cultural level, where they started respecting Italian bands again, Italian rappers, Spanish bands, Spanish guitar players, Portuguese techno DJs. It's no longer just about who's coming in from Miami or from LA. It's actually becoming, again, about what's the next big thing in Barcelona, in Madrid, in Porto, in Milan, in Athens. These are scenes that are now cultivating their local talent in a way that was not happening 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, if you had asked me, I would have said, Eurovision, who the hell cares? It's a TV show where we try to emulate, in this kind of Americanized style of what's going to be the flashiest thing and what's going to be the most interesting, maybe even from a perspective of being politically correct. But ever since COVID onwards, it's no longer just about the shock factor of some kind of pop culture value that's trending this winter or this summer. It's become more about every country really trying to push for this blend of quality and to kind of show, you know what, like this is our national talent, man. This is our good singer this year. Like let's see how he fares compared to everybody else. Or it can be some DJ techno group where you have vocals like the Ukrainians did a few years ago, where it had this
Yeah.
kind of folk motive and everything. But sometimes, sometimes you need to reach this point where you start becoming proud over the stuff that you can do naturally, and then you want to propel that. And now with that being the climate, it's actually really interesting. It was easy to motivate oneself and say, you know what, let's give it a shot at Montesong. And then once you sit down and you start recording, of course, as any serious artist or creative type, the kind of euphoria pulls off, and you're like, you know what, let's try get into the Eurovision. Why not go for the head of the dragon on our first try? So yeah.
No, like lately, Eurovision has become like a big bet for many countries and many artists because,
Yeah.
as you know, like so many big names for the past 5-6 years made it to like the top in the United States, the rest of Europe, the rest of the world.
Mhm.
So it's really important for the artists, but also, as you mentioned, the countries are also trying to be a little bit more risky with what they send.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question, that is about the interest in exploring international opportunities, being Eurovision like the massive stage that
Mhm.
this is. So in case that you win Montesong, do you think that if in case you are interested to pursue an international experience, Eurovision will leverage that and will help you achieve like the next level?
No, I mean it's definitely going to be a useful spotlight for everything we do. And the thing is that being that half of the band is also it's me along with my brothers who are also, I mean you can say it's nepotist. A lot of the band is actually family members in one way or another, not direct family members, but we do kind of have this extreme closeness. But we already stand behind a project that went pretty global by making the first video game in Montenegro that hit PlayStation this summer. And it
Wow.
sold almost 100,000 copies. And in a way, it really spread our wings. It raised our morale, and it made us feel like finally a lot of the art that we do and a lot of the creativity we have really does deserve a global audience. Now, before the Montesong application, and before we got to that, we were aware of our musical potential as well and everything, but it's very hard, unfortunately, to compete with the Taylor Swifts and the massive
Yeah.
kind of corporate approach from Time Warner Company and all these massive conglomerates that kind of dominate who's going to be the big hit maker, who's going to be famous in the music. And with the music industry, it's really, perhaps out of all the art scenes in the world, I think it's really the most manipulative. It's the strangest one of them all. You really have to sell your soul a little. You really have to. It really is much more about who you know, and it's almost barely about what you can do and what you have to say. And in that kind of position of disappointment, we never really I don't think we actively pursued it on a global level. It was more the idea of you create your art because you're an artist and you will do it whether you have an audience or not. So we have a lot of music behind us. We have a lot of these events that we've done locally. We plan on doing more. But now that this is kind of opening a new door, a new window, and a new chance for things, there's definitely an internal energy where, I mean, we're already doing band rehearsals as if we're going to do a full concert. We're not working only on one song. We're already preparing for that. We have a ton of material that just really needs to, it just takes a few weeks for us to like sit down, see what really works. And I mean, God willing, if we end up going to the Eurovision, we'll have an album by then. Like by then we will have an album, and we'll definitely be chasing, you know what, let's do a tour. Let's go play a show in Portugal. Let's go play a show in Spain. Let's play a show in France. Let's try building an audience for something alternative, for some of the good stuff as well.
No, but that's really cool. That is a project that's basically starting from this competition, and you will like work on it from now on. So I can see that the future plans for the band. You'll be like, okay, if this goes well, we'll then like invest in this and create good music from that. So yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool to know. Looking forward to that. And now that you touched the point, like if we win the competition, That's also a good question. As you know, like Montenegro stopped participating a few years ago, and before that, the results at Eurovision were not that great, struggling to qualify to the final. So I'd like to know if you think that in case you win, and since that the rock songs always do really well at Eurovision, which is very strange because people think that is like a very pop-centric
Yeah,
competition,
and
but
that
the
it's
rock
hard, but
songs
it's actually usually every year there's one or two that are really high up, or they win, or
exactly.
they either win or they're in the top five. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're always really well classified. So I'd like to know if you think that in case you win, that
Mhm.
you think your song will potentially give like a good result to Montenegro.
I think it will, and I think in general it's just it's one of the few blessings of intense genres, because when you look at techno or heavy rock or like some, the elements that we're going for, it's not easy to pitch this kind of stuff to your grandma. You can't really explain to your neighbor or your
Yeah.
teacher what's cool about it. But having said that, if we all end up going to this mass festival like the Eurovision, or like maybe sometimes New Year's celebrations on your public square, there can be like 10 bands, 10 acts, and trust me, the loudest and the baddest of them all is going to take all the attention. Everybody falls for it. And it even shows with people, maybe, if you still have a grandma, and if she's alive and well and energetic, you can take her for a rave sometime, and you'll see that she'll only say that maybe it happened a little too late at night, but she's not going to complain about anything else. She's going to be pretty impressed. She's going to be amazed. So if grannies are susceptible to being impressed by raves and Rammstein and Prodigy, then I'm sure that, the general kind of Europop audience is actually always open for more stimulation than just your general kind of pop offer. Because it would be strange for the Eurovision to be a contest where you expect someone like, something like a Dua Lipa summer track, or like a Taylor Swift pop track or a Beyonce pop track to win, because that's already ever present. It's already everywhere. You cannot run away from it in H&M. You cannot run away
Yeah.
from it in the subway. You cannot run away from it at airports. It's everywhere. And then the Eurovision, in this strange sense, like over the past 5 or 6 years, has morphed into this, chance to actually, show you how it's actually great to like very alternative and very different stuff.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's what impressed me about Eurovision, that you can have like in the same competition these 30, 40 songs, and they all can sound like completely different from each other, and
Yeah.
you still appeal to like different publics, like different people, which is really really important and really cool, one of the best parts of the competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you already touched in one of the points that I would like to ask is, of course, like these being very rock, underground song, electronic. What are your biggest musical influences? Like, who do you like to listen the most? What are your references in the? In
It's
the
really a lot. Like by now, it's really a lot of stuff because it's happened through a lot of phases. But I think when you create a lot, at some point, to make things easier for yourself, you always categorize things internally, kind of on a level of what sounds like what to you, and what kind of element you want to use and everything. And to be honest, in general, it would be too much if I started listing everything now. But with this song on a specific level, it's definitely local pop singing styles in Montenegro, and then giving it a kind of synth ambience a la Depeche Mode, and then going for a kind of Rammstein level of intensity during the chorus, but mixing it so that it's still technically pop. So that even if it is a heavy song, it opens up poppily, it ends poppily. Apart from its choruses, it's actually very singy. It's very vocal
yeah,
oriented. There's barely anything happening in it until the chorus. But then the chorus is the time to, steal everyone's attention and be like, now, this is why we love electric guitars and not acoustic guitars.
yeah, that's really cool. Thank you so much for your time and for the
You're
chat.
more
Really
than welcome.
lovely. I would like,
Thank you
yeah.
for inviting me
No
to the call.
worries. I would like just now for you to ask you for like to leave a quick message to like, I don't know, the Portuguese fans that will watch this interview, or other
I
fans
just want to
around.
encourage everyone from Portugal to also embrace there. I mean, I've even lived there for a while, and I'm aware and visited many times, and I'm aware of how interesting the alternative scenes there are. And I'd really like to see Portugal at some point, show up with something that's not as expected. It's not only Saudade oriented, something that also has a bit of a bit of a punch to it, because there is a punch, there is a sadness in the culture, and that's wonderful, it's beautiful, but that doesn't always have to be the primary emotion that someone's displaying. I mean, you guys have badasses like Saramago in the world of writing. Why not, propel a new band from Lisbon or something and show some kind of new wave of synth punk, and maybe even win 2 years from now? Like why not? Why run away from the idea?
Yeah, something a little bit risky. Yeah, actually, this year we have some very interesting names in our national selection. So yeah, hopefully we can send something more risky. So like you mentioned that you lived in Portugal. Can I ask you which city?
Lisbon.
Oh, in Lisbon.
Yeah,
Okay.
a few months.
Fantastic. Well,
actually, it was in Algiers. It was in Algiers, to be more precise. Yeah.
That's very specific.
yeah, fond memories, and really, and I mean, with the city as interesting as Lisbon and Porto as well, it's very hard to forget. Every day is kind of stuck in the memory because there's something very, very specific, very authentic about the experience.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Really good to hear. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. It was a really nice chat. So yeah, good luck on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll have a great result. I really enjoy your song, so I'll be rooting for you as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And
thank you so much. Rock on.
Thank you.
Bye. All the best. All the best.